Hello and welcome to our session. We're going to be discussing VCSA Awakens. I'm Emad Younis.
Ryan Johnson with Technical Marketing at VMware.
Brian Graf, Technical Marketing with VMware as well.
Adam Eckerly, I'm a Technical Account Manager with VMware.
Wow, I'm surrounded by VMware.
Yes, you are.
All right, so VCSA, it's come a long way, right? Deployment. It's
You've got options.
yeah.
You got options. Two form factors. Even better now. Bigger, better, right?
So let's talk first targets, right? Now we got ESXi, which we had in 6.
Yep.
vCenter is now a new target.
As part of Update 1.
Yep. You want to kind of take us through that and use some use cases?
Yeah, sure. So, I think one of the biggest issues, one of the issues that people had when we moved to 6.0 and the deployment method was having to deploy directly to an ESX host, right? And for a lot of people, it was just kind of a pain that we weren't used to. So with Update 1, when we were able to deploy to vCenter as well, people got excited. So for example, in some of our test labs we have a management cluster, DRS, HA is enabled, and we put all of our infrastructure virtual machines in there. And we actually have about 4 or 5 other vCenter servers in there that manage other labs. So for us, it was nice to be able to just go and with Update 1, be able to point to that vCenter, the management vCenter, right, and be able to just deploy multiple vCenters back into that one without having to do specifically to a host. So that's nice. And do we want to talk about the different ways that we can deploy?
Yeah. So that was kind of the next. You want to keep going, or
sure? I'll stand a roll for a minute, right? So I'll talk about a couple that are kind of near and dear to my heart, right? I'll talk about one. I'll let other people talk as well.
JSON.
Yeah, I'll let one of you guys do JSON.
Sure.
But so one of the great things about Power CLI is we came out with a new commandlet back in 5.8 release 1 that allows you to actually create a configuration to query an OVA and get back all the properties of that OVA that you can set, and then you can set those in Power CLI or through a script, and then attach that when you import the OVA. So previously you could import an OVA, but then it would have no properties via Power CLI. So now with Power CLI 5.8 R1 and above, we can go in and attach the OVA in Power CLI and say, what are these properties here with the get OVF configuration commandlet, and then fill out all the different properties that we require in a hash table or in a script, and then attach that to the import vApp commandlet. And so for me, that's a really easy way. I've outputted the hash table into a text file, and I've got a whole bunch of variables in there, and now I can just use either a CSV or some of my own properties and other scripts, and I can just be deploying vCenters like this. So for me, that's been really handy.
But it's only for deployment, right? You can't use it for any kind of upgrade or anything like that, right?
Right. So yeah, this is deployment only.
Okay. So then we also have JSON files, right?
Yeah, so in 6.0 we have 2 different deployment methods for the VCSA. We have the HTML5 deployment method, but one of my favorite methods is actually using a CLI installer. So you have an option, if you look at the VCSA, there's and open up the ISO, there's a templates directory. That templates directory actually has a couple different JSON files, about 8 different configurations. You open up that JSON file, it's got all kind of pre-configured configurations. If you want to just do a platform service controller, you want to do a vCenter, you want to do embedded, a couple different options there.
You can actually even customize, right?
You can actually customize it any way you want with all your own information, host names, IP addresses, what port groups, storage you want to use. But the cool thing is you can actually deploy the VCSA from a Mac, Windows, or Linux using the CLI installer. And so we have a bunch of different labs like Brian mentioned, and I'm always deploying a bunch of VCSAs to do testing. So it's really kind of cool to take the JSON file, change the values that I need, and deploy my targets. And I actually got some of the guys in the community using it now for some of their robo environments. It makes it a lot easier to deploy.
Unfortunately, that's the only way to deploy it on a Mac.
That's the only way to deploy it with a Mac. You can't use the HTML5 installer, but I find your lack of faith disturbing. We don't support using the Mac or Linux right now to deploy the VCSA yet, but we do support it using the CLI installer. But have faith, you're Padawan.
Okay, so in Update 1, now we have CLI, where we can actually go from a 6.0 to an Update 1 straight through the command line, right? Mm-hmm. But we also have right through the GUI or the VMI, right?
Yes.
Yes, the VMI is back.
The VMI is back, but we
The
now
VMI
call
returns.
The
it.
VMI has awakened.
Yeah, the VMI has awakened. It's come out of hiding, and now we call it the Appliance Management User Interface. So the VMI's back. You can connect to HTTPS, the FQDN or IP address of the vCenter, and call them 5480 as you're used to, and connect with an account, like log in with your root, right? And the VMware One Bang or whatever you have your password is. Yeah, log in.
I got to change my password now.
Yeah, I know, right? Everybody uses that. And then you have a full HTML5 interface to configure your network settings, as well as do future updates. So the ability to update from an online repo, an ISO, or your own ISO, so your own repo, as well. There's another update I can't remember. There's another way.
Well, you can connect did you say you can connect the ISO?
Yes,
you can mount the
connect
ISO,
ISO. Or you can still use the appliance shell and run it that way if you don't want to use the VMI. So a couple different ways you can update it. But the VMI is back, as well as we added for the platform service controller a full HTML5 capable platform service controller UI. So you just connect to the HTTPS FQDN of the virtual machine /PSC, and you get the platform service controller UI as well.
So I don't know about any of you, but when I first I first deployed Update 1, and I knew that it was there from things internally, and so I kind of sat there for a second and then did :5480, hit enter, and then it didn't give me an error, and it came up with, I thought it was like the vCenter login page because it looked different than the old VMI login. I was like, this is kind of interesting, so I tried putting in administrator, vSphere.local, whatever, password, login, it didn't work, and I thought, oh, it's broken, what did I do? And I was like, wait, it looks like the login page for vCenter, but it's the VMI. So I did root and got right in, and I don't know about you guys, but I was just like, woo, this is beautiful.
I love
right?
the look and feel.
Yeah,
it is so much better. Everything now is on the left-hand side. So you can go in, do NTP, right? You can
It's consistent with everything
Yeah,
else.
you can change your NTP settings now.
Yeah.
You can change your network settings post-installation.
yeah.
You can manage your certificates now.
You can manage your certificates. You want to talk about certificate management and
Seeing that's
Not
your
enough
topic,
time.
but
We
you
need,
just want
we
to
need
go
about 2 more hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it just provides another option to manage and the VMCA or just to take a look at the certificates on the PSC. So it's nice
Actually,
that it's a consistent interface. It's intuitive. You kind of know where to go.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, you can log into the Platform Services UI, manage your certificates like you said, manage the network settings if you go to 5480, but you can also go in there and manage such things as adding it to Active Directory. So use the machine account in order to authenticate to your identity source.
There's actually a link where you can go between the VMI and the Platform Services
there is.
controller. So that's pretty slick that there's actually that integration built in.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, kind of shifting gears a little bit, one of the other cool things with Update 1, right, is that now we have the ability to repoint vCenters and change our deployment models. So, I mean, that's huge.
That is big, especially now that you select an embedded, and later on as your environment grows, you need to expand, right? So it's all via command line.
It's all via command line now. If you've deployed a embedded vCenter deployment with the platform service controller, and you say, you know what, I'd really like to break that out and make it an external deployment. Now in 6.0 update 1, we have a new namespace for the CMSSO-util. The CMSSO-util reconfigure namespace. You pop that in there and choose your new platform service controller. You basically take a platform service controller, link it with your embedded deployment model, the same common SSO domain. It will actually reconfigure it. What I mean by reconfigure is it repoints it to another platform services controller and then actually uninstalls the bits and binaries for the other services it doesn't need for platform services, and then changes the deployment type to an external deployment model.
But
Hey
the
Ryan,
caveat
do you know
is
of anybody that has a video that might explain
I
that?
don't know where you would find a blog post on that, but if you go to blogs.vmware.com/vSphere, there is a blog post on that.
Shameless plug.
Hey man.
But the caveat is you have to be on the same SSO domain for all this to work.
Yes, you do have to be on the same SSO domain, but you can reconfigure that. And there is the ability to do a repoint from a 6.0 to another alternate platform services controller. It was also supported in 6.0 GA, but we've made it far easier with one command line, we basically do the CMSSO util dash util with the repoint command, and it does everything for you. Automates the repointing. It's not like 5 CMFAD commands now, so it's a lot easier to repoint. You can do that for intrasite as well as intersite. When you do it intersite, there is an additional command, and I have that on my blog post.
What I like about it is, so I can have a vCenter, and now I can actually expand out, and I can point it to a platform services controller, right? Especially if I had the embedded, I can go back to that original vCenter and actually make it a vCenter and remove the embedded platform services controller from that if I wanted to do it as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a big challenge with customers moving over to, some in some ways the appliance, but in other ways just moving to 6.0, because having this sort of re-swizzle their existing SSO environment and vCenters to pull the embedded out, because we're VMware and we told them all they should be on embedded SSO deployments on 5.5, and then 6.0 we changed it. So, but giving that option to not have to mess with all that, because it's not completely easy, and you could be prone to mistakes. So now with 6.0 update 1, we've given that sort of upgrade path, and I think it's a little bit simpler, more straightforward, and just all around better.
So I'm sure there's something you want to talk about in regards to Update Manager.
yeah, definitely. Update 1 has been huge as far as Update Manager is concerned. We've had this issue for, let's just say a couple months, right? No, it's been a couple years. Let's be honest, it's been a couple years with people saying, it's 2015, we still don't have full integration with Update Manager and the web client. We still have a Windows box. We have all these issues. Come on, guys, get with it, right? We've been working really hard in that, especially in the recent year. And with Update 1, we now have fully integrated UI with the web client. So now there's no need to log into the C# client for Update Manager. You can go in there and do all of your remediations, your scans, your baselines. All of that can be done using the web client. Yeah, we had a lot of cheers in my sessions from that. So people are really excited. Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
So basically all that's needed is stand up Update Manager, right? On a Windows
still
box.
requires the Windows box. Yep.
Which is not a bad thing, because you can still use that Windows box for things like plugins, which we'll kind of talk about here in a second.
Like Power Actions.
Yeah.
Right?
Shameless plug.
So Windows box, deploy Update Manager, and
you essentially will deploy Update Manager. There's update. You have to have Update 1 as well, otherwise it doesn't work.
Right.
You log out of the web client, log back in, and you should see the integration right there. So you can go in, and the nice thing is not only do you have Update Manager just on the home page, so it's really integrated throughout the web client. So if you right click on an object, if it's a cluster, if it's a host, or a virtual machine, you can actually go, and in the right click menu, it has remediation and Update Manager tasks there as well. So you can get to it in multiple places.
Yeah, update your vCenter to vCenter 6.0 update 1, update Manager, log out and log back in. If for any reason when you log back in it doesn't work, just restart use service control and restart the vSphere web client, and you're off to the races.
the one thing we did kind of forget to touch point, especially when you have services control, the platform services controller, and in a vCenter is kind of your restored order, right? Because if you don't remember that platform services controller has to be up
first.
Yeah.
You have to upgrade your platform services controller first before you upgrade your vCenter server.
Well,
one thing you could do
technically
is,
you could still do it, but isn't the vCenter just going to hang until your platform services controller comes up anyway?
So some people will use kind of a VApp mentality, right? Put those in and put the restart order, so that way you don't even have to, kind of set it and forget it type scenario, right?
Yep.
I do that in my labs.
Okay, so we've touched base on the deployment. We've talked about, upgrading. Let's talk certs for a second. Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot. Great. Want to kind of give us a little bit of an overview of the...
Yeah, so in 6.0 we introduced the VMware, the vSphere Certificate Manager, the VMCA, as well as VEX. So we now have a way to actually manage certificates even better in vSphere 6.0. The VMCA is its own certificate authority. We have the ability to deploy certificates that are trusted from the VMCA down to all the vSphere components, the Platform Service Controller. We issue machine SSL certificates to the Platform Service Controller, as well as the vCenter, as well as down to the ESXi host. By default, those are all trusted to the VMCA. You do have the option to change that and use an Enterprise CA subordinate, so you can actually make it a subordinate or intermediate to your Enterprise CA, and then it will issue certificates trusted all the way up to your Enterprise CA. And you can have a couple different other options where you can use a custom certificate, have everything a custom certificate, and avoid using the VMCA and just use VEX, or do a hybrid approach where the forward-looking services such as the vSphere Web Client can use a custom certificate and let VMCA issue all the internal solution user certificates and ESXi certificates. So a lot of different options. If you really want to learn a lot more about that, we'll give a shameless plug from me and Adam. You can go to vmware.com/go/INF4529. It'll take you to our VMworld session we did in the US. You'll see a full set of demos, the presentation, our scripts that are on GitHub, and thank you to Brian for helping us with one of the scripts. So yeah, if you want to learn all about certificates, vmware.com/go/INF4529. You can check out the documentation and our demos and presentation.
All right, so now we've talked about certs. Let's go back to plugins, right? Most people want to actually get away from that one Windows box for Update Manager, but I think in essence you're still going to need at least somewhere to install plugins, because let's say there's some, I guess, third parties or even first party plugins that still don't support install on the VCSA, right? So you're going to have somewhere to install those, but that leaves a dependency on the VCSA, right? And troubleshooting, also performance. So those are, I guess, things you need to consider before installing directly on the appliance. So, I mean, I guess in my opinion, having that Windows box is not such a bad thing. You guys want to weigh in, or?
Yeah, so I'll just say, I think that right now maybe one of the reasons why some of the third parties haven't been creating plugins that maybe apply to the VCSA yet is because the adoption has been lower and the majority of customers are on the Windows machines. And it's kind of a chicken and egg problem here, because there's a number of customers that say, hey, we want to move to the VCSA, but we don't want the Windows machine for Update Manager.
Right.
So they're like, if I have to have an update or a Windows machine for Update Manager, I'm going to have Windows vCenter as well. So I think as we start seeing people move over and you see more going on around Update Manager and VCSA, and us trying to move away from Windows, I think that adoption is going to increase significantly, and for third parties to stay relevant, they're going to need to create those plugins. So I think it's kind of just a temporary thing at the moment, but definitely, I mean, you do need to look at weighing the plugins, the number of plugins you're running in your VCSA, and what type of performance impact that's going to have on there.
Yeah, what he said. Actually, one of the cool things is, speaking of plugins, we did add the Virtual SAN Health Check plugin into Update 1. So now, instead of loading in the Health Check plugin for Virtual SAN into the VCSA, we include it with vCenter Service 6.0 Update 1. So.
I think kind of the bottom line is that the VCSA has the highest concentration of midichlorians that I've ever seen, and it's just taking a little bit to sort of mature and get there. And while we're kind of in this transient state, I think we should be looking forward to a time when the VSA is the majority of deployments out there, and I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I know. So at Tintry, we actually have a plugin that integrates with the VCSA.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Senior technical marketing engineer at Tintry. So we're one of, I think, the few that actually has one that integrates both with VCSA and then in the web client, and it's great. So I'm looking forward to seeing more third-party plugins as well. All right, so let's talk about next.
It's a trap. Stay on target. So VMworld US, there was a lot of tech previews, which was amazing. I think this is probably the first time I've seen all the tech previews geared towards this year versus the past, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing that I got to see was around high availability. So
I mean, from what I saw, it looked pretty cool. Do you guys want to kind of elaborate a little bit more on, the direction and what? I mean, I know there's kind of a fine balance here, so I'm not going to put you on the spot. Not too much.
Too late. Too late.
Yeah, too late. So do you want to elaborate?
Do you want to elaborate on?
I don't really know what I can say and what I can't.
Yeah, buddy, you're on camera.
I can say that during the technical preview, Mohan showed a demo of a native active passive high availability for vCenter server. We did a technical preview demo of that in his session. So if you check out the replay, you can see that demo.
So it actually looked pretty cool. It looked like it actually spun out another, vCenter, at least from what I saw. And if this one went down, at least you had the other one up with some sort of, it looked like there was a mechanism that communicated back and forth.
So yeah, so right now, and like we've mentioned a few times, this is tech preview, so things are subject to change. But as of right now, and what Mohan demoed, there's a cold vCenter server, so it's there, but the services are all turned off. And if and when it detects that the active vCenter goes down, then that one spins back up and has an RPO. I don't remember exactly what the RPO was for that, but it's it's a lot lower than just spinning up a new or even restarting your vCenter server. So it's definitely better than what we've got right now, and I expect to see.
I mean,
right. No, but that actually really becomes an issue with a lot of our customers. We get asked that question quite a bit, and especially after the whole vCenter heartbeat EOL.
And fault tolerance isn't really a solution, I would say. And there's some limiting factors there, right? Number of CPUs.
It's possible,
and things like
yeah. I mean, so it's possible, it's doable. Is that the right solution for people? Most of the time, it's not.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but I think that a lot of people are seeing this as it takes us a while as VMware to get some of our bigger things out the door, and I think this is a way that we can show good faith as far as, hey, we're working on this. We understand this is a problem. Take a look at this, see if this will work for you, and give us your feedback as we continue on making the the next of that, and continually making that better. And
it shows you guys are listening and aware of customer pain points.
Yeah, it's taking it to the next level for service high availability. I mean, for vCenter server, you can use you start with HA for platform service controller. You can use HA with a using a F5 load balancer and NetScaler. We now support NSX for load balancing that, or even use SMPFT because it's a 2x2 for the virtual appliance for the PSC. Right? If you deploy the PSC in the appliance form factor, and if it's a small configuration, that's a 2 or a 4 CPU. We also support using fault tolerance for high availability. This takes it the next step further to have high availability for the actual vCenter services. In case you're using something like a VDI solution, we need to have that online for powering up or powering down or provisioning additional workloads, or using cloud, automated cloud provisioning where you want to have those services online. So we're taking the next step to make sure we put that. So we had the technical preview in Mohan's session.
Yep.
Okay. So what other technical previews can we discuss? So I won't put you on the spot any further.
So I won't go into. I'll stay very general on this, but we're working on the performance of the VCSA, right? So performance. Everything we do, right? So, for example, when we come out with new versions of vSphere, our configuration maximums are generally increased significantly. One of the other things is, as we've seen over the past few releases, for example, with the vSphere web client, is performance increases, right? So we're really focused around that. From an ESX lifecycle standpoint, we're really focused around how can we make the entire life cycle from the time that you throw a server into your rack to the time that you have to refresh that. How can we make that easier for our customers? And that includes things like host profiles and autoplay. How can we make these easier? And so some of the tech previews that we had, if you haven't seen our sessions, is in tech preview we have a GUI built into the web client for auto deploy and the rules engine. So I don't mind doing it the way that we do it now because it's in Power CLI. I'm comfortable with that.
Makes one of us.
There's a number of customers out there that aren't super comfortable with doing it through CLI, right?
All right, kid, don't get cocky.
Thanks, Han Solo. So I think that's one big thing is we're adding some things into the UI tech preview, and we're really trying to close the gap on host profiles. So right now we have a lot of people that have tried host profiles and said, it's maybe not really the thing for us because there was 1 or 2 settings or 4 or 5 settings that we couldn't set that we needed for our environment. And so our engineers have worked long and hard over the last last number of cycles to try and find every single one of those gaps. So anything that you can set via Power CLI, API, or the C# Planner web client, you should be able to do via host profiles. And so that's one of the things that they're working on. And I guess the last thing I'll sort of kind of drop, because we did tech preview in my last session as well, is we're working towards Update Manager being integrated into the VCSA. So that would get us away from the Windows machine for Update Manager. There will be no more dependency on a Windows machine, and we're working to have it so everything is put together, no extra database. Update Manager, I believe, will be part of updating vCenter server. So we're looking at having all that bundled into one. We have the majority, almost I'd say 90% or more of our customers are using Update Manager, right? So they're already having to go out and find the extra bits and download them on a machine and configure all that. We realize that everybody's doing that, so why not just integrate it and make it part of the product?
Of course, that brings up a whole bunch of other questions, but
we'll leave it there. We'll leave it at that.
I know. All right. You have anything you want to bring up as far as previews or what you can share?
No, I don't really have anything going with what Brian and Ryan have talked about.
Okay.
One thing that I would like to add, it's not just general, it's not as tech previews, but I would encourage customers to take a look at the vCenter Support Assistant. It's an appliance that we have that you can deploy and link to your vCenters so that it integrates with your My VMware support experience. And we all know when grabbing logs and pulling the log bundles and sending those support, you have to send those support so you can start working on your case. This automates the process, the creation of your any support tickets you may have, and sends the log bundles from the device, the host or vCenters you want to send them from. Makes the process really simple. Actually updates the logs and the cases when the bundles arrive to VMware Global Support. So take a look at the vCenter Support Assistant. It's a free download. Connect it to your vCenters and try that out. It also gives you the ability to look at proactive alerts. So send you a monthly email with any proactive information for alerts.
So speaking of logs, one feature that's in the vCenter appliance is you can actually go in now and point your logs to an external log server, right? So if
log inside.
Yeah, see, if Landis was there, he would say
I know,
log
I was
inside.
like, I was waiting to see if Steve was still around.
Yeah, I don't think he's. I think he walked away. But yeah, so I think that's pretty neat now that you can go in and change that.
Well, and you can go into your vCenter server as well. So reading up a little bit about some of the updates and things that we've done. We've got like 4 different ways that we can grab our logs, right? And you can do that from within the web client as well. You can go in there and click, download support bundle as well. So we've got multiple different ways that we can do this. Once again, giving options to our customers and what they're comfortable with.
So now that they've given me the sign, we've only got like a minute. So is there anything you want to, I guess, promote while we're up here? Since you've already done some shameless plugs.
No, nothing. I would like to mention that at least in 6.0 we do have it set by default to truncate task and events. Speaking of logs, truncate task and events after 30 days, which was not the default in previous versions. So that makes your database a lot smaller.
Yeah.
So,
anything you want to promote?
No, we're kind of promoting it through this whole thing. I think that right now is a great time for people to be looking at the VCSA. I know that for a lot of customers, a lot of customers are really, it can take them a while to get through their cycles of planning, testing, and actually deploying. So this is a great time. It's never been better as far as feature parity goes, and configuration maximums are the same between the Windows base and the VCSA. Definitely give it a good look.
I'll just bolt on to that I think you guys in tech marketing are doing a great job of getting the content out there so that the walkthroughs, feature walkthroughs. I think not enough people know about the feature walkthroughs.
Yeah, shameless plug for that. Check out featurewalkthrough.vmware.com. We have tons of walkthroughs on things such as vSphere 6.0, NSX, as well as the VMware validated designs.
So I'm going to throw out a shameless plug for my blog. Right, I just did a VCSA rundown of all the features. So I thought that was
a great post.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Where do we find that blog?
That's at amadyounis.com.
Younis.
Yeah, I just promote myself.
It's right here on his chest.
Yeah, right there. Anything else you guys want to bring up before they kick us off?
Last shameless plug is for the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. Go to vmware.com/go/podcast or just look us up on iTunes. We have folks like Brian and Emad and Adam and myself join in every week.
All right. With that, we're going to call it quits.
Awesome.
Peace.